Boo! Boo!
Ooh.
Boo! Taboo. Hello, I am Jim Scampoli, and I apologize up front.
Yes, as you should. I'm Jacob Burrows, and I thought it was gonna be that you didn't like this show and we only do shows where you don't like shows now, and that was just how you decided to introduce your opinion. Is that what you were doing sneakily?
Yeah. We're here to talk about the new Tom Hardy show, Taboo.
Jesus.
How
am I supposed to balance this out, Jim? You're so full of hate. I don't even know. Like, 'cause I feel like I don't
know. I don't know what happened. You know what? Maybe because I'm in the midst of rewatching Buffy and Angel, that every show I watch is garbage. Every other show I watch. I'm being a little unfair, but yes, we're here to talk about the new show Taboo on FX, starring Tom Hardy. Jacob, what is this show about?
This show is about a guy who got lost in Africa for a bunch of years, and then he came back way more badass, like you do when you're lost in the wilderness for a lot of years. So he came back super badass, and now he wants to start his own trading company because he used to be in the East India Trading Company, but now he's like, no, I'm with West America Trading Company, more like. So he's trying to start his own thing, and mishaps ensue in that everyone wants to kill him because obviously you don't mess with the East India, and also he's too badass for his own good. He's just going around out badass and everyone. Honestly, the shorter pitch is it's Batman. It's like
it is Batman, isn't it? Yeah.
It's 1814 Batman, which was the first thing I kind of wrote down, and that's why I liked it.
Okay.
Fuck you.
The thing is, 1814 Batman sounds great. That sounds like action and interest and intrigue. It doesn't sound dull though, does it? Because this show has dull. This show's got dull to fucking share. This show's got dull to hand out to everyone.
Sure.
Never mind the self-indulgence of the show. This show was like born out of the brainchild of Tom Hardy and his dad. So his dad, Chip Hardy. So you know when like you and your dad hang out and talk about what a kick-ass dude you are,
right?
Then you can make a show about it.
Did they make it about ships because his name was Chip?
Chip, like a potato chip.
Did
Chip
they make
Hardy.
it about ships because his name was Chip?
Yeah, I think they did. Let me make sure I got that right. I'm almost positive it was Chip Hardy.
So it's Batman because he arrives, he comes, it's kind of Arrow too on CW, and I'm glad we didn't have a lot of Arrow flashbacks in this where we have to see what happened in Africa. Who gives a fuck? But basically he's in England, he's walking around and being cool and trying to get all the ingredients he needs for his new shipping company. Jim doesn't seem on board. Well, I was pretty on board.
Imagine if Batman, like not even 1814 Batman, but imagine if like Batman now was like, I need to start a shipping company. You'd be like, ugh, Batman sucks. I guess, or you know what? The modern day version of the shipping company, it's like, I need to start a .com or something. And it's all about Batman using his powers to start a .com. That sounds like an amazing show, right?
Yeah, but I'm kind of done with. I mean, I've said this for a decade, but I'm kind of done with fucking Batman and all these superheroes.
Oh, for sure.
Why they got to be fighting all the time? I mean, he does some fighting. He has his Alfred, and they're talking about stuff. I was less on board until he came home to England and met his butler, his Alfred, because before then he was literally just looking at people in a menacing way, and everyone was kind of backing down, and he didn't really have anyone to talk to. And it was kind of when his buddy came in that they could actually, like, someone he trusts that he could talk to. The show got a lot better for me. But yeah, it's a lot about the shipping company. There's a lot of meetings, but I mean, he's being so cool in the meetings, Jim.
Yeah, no, I don't think he's being cool at all. I think, and in a way, it's probably. Again, I'm trying to blame myself for this stuff. I'm trying. I don't want to just shit on these shows. But it just, I feel like Tom Hardy in general is kind of overrated. I think Tom Hardy has a great look, and I think everyone likes how he looks because he's, he's a good looking but like scruffy dude. Although, I mean, I've seen him in like a couple movies that I've really liked him, but usually I don't feel like he's that great. And even people that like this show, at least from what I read on the reviews, they're like, I don't really know what's going on, and it's not that great, but Tom Hardy's performance, man. And I don't know. I'm just not getting that. I'm not getting that same vibe.
Okay, well, let's get some listener feedback. We got a friend Anders who writes, insane tattooed guy seeks bloody revenge in 1800s spooky England, shamelessly marketed as nothing else. Tom Hardy gets another pin on my hard-on list. Of course, I'm gonna it up. I think he means eat it up. And he says, great show, guys. Have a nice one. Thanks, Anders.
That's good.
I really, when I was talking to him actually earlier, he was saying that he thought it was based on a true story. And I was like, are you joking? It's clearly not based on a true story at all. And if it was based on a true story, I would think it was a shit show because it's so clearly like Batman. It's so clearly over the top and crazy that I'm totally fine with, if it was historically accurate, it would be wrong. It shouldn't be. It should be like a comic book or something. And I think they do that pretty well. And I'm not even that bored by it. I know we keep saying this, but I really was kind of open to this type of show right at this moment, and
Sure.
I think that helps a lot.
Yeah.
Because if you're not in the mood for it, it's it's gonna be this. This is what it is. The show is.
But my problem with the show is that, sure, it's got good production value. I mean, it looks good. It's got some interesting things it's trying to do, but I don't feel like this show ever gave me to do what it's doing, to have the confidence it has to like kind of slow roll or whatever. It never gave me a thing to care about, because you have to at least give me something to care about. It's because it's playing so fast and loose with whatever his mission is, because they're trying to keep it so mysterious, or what he's about, or what his Indian/African powers are, that I don't know. Like, they're trying to keep you so out of the loop, so you're trying to second guess what he's doing, but I don't know or care what he's doing.
Okay, that makes sense, but wait, we watched the same episodes, right? We watched the first 4?
Yeah, I watched the first 4.
What about when he's like, I'm gonna break into the East India Company, and then he does? That's not what you mean, then?
No, I just mean the greater purpose of like giving a shit why I care what he's doing. You know what I mean? Like a show gives you more of a hook than what I get from this show. Like, it's just this guy shows up, and like they hint at all this backstory. And again, like, I don't need to see it. I don't need to see him, being tortured in Africa or whatever. But it's like he's on this revenge path, but I don't know what he wants to get revenge for.
Isn't it because of the... It's because he's so cool.
I mean, I know there's something with his dad, clearly, and like, I mean, maybe that's the hook. It's supposed to be the mystery, but it feels like it's a sequel to something, and I just never saw the first one.
Sure.
I know there are specific plots that, yes, I know we got to break in and get the stuff to make gunpowder, or I got to get the will so I can get the land. Like, I know those things, but I don't know why he has this grand plan to. I mean, I guess they're starting to hint at it, because they were talking to the head of the Stewart or whatever, but the Grand Sparrow from Game of Thrones. They're talking to him, and they're like, "What did you do to this man?" And he's like, "I don't even remember," or something, So there's something there, and there's something with his dad, but there's not enough that I personally, anyways, that I really care. They didn't give me enough of a hook that I'm like, ah, man, Tom Hardy or whatever. Oh, James, it's my name. I should remember what his name is. James Delaney. Damn, James Delaney, come on, you got to do this or whatever. And yeah, I mean, it's called Taboo, so he has a relationship with his sister.
But are we in spoilers section, or does that not matter?
Well, I mean, I guess it's called Taboo, but yeah, I guess
I did literally. We said it now anyway. I thought in my head like they better explain what they mean by taboo because everyone's gonna assume incest, which I think is
Well, but the thing
just
is,
because of porn, right? That's only because of porn that people think that. Because other
Yeah.
things can be taboo
for sure.
But
And the show even like plays it so like subtle for majority of it until it finally kind of confirms. But they rely on you knowing what they're doing because the show's called Taboo. I feel like they're like, the audience knows what we're doing here. It's called Taboo. Duh.
yeah. But if you okay, yeah, it is called taboo. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought a bit there.
I just mean like they're not story-wise, they're not I don't know. Story-wise, they're relying on you just knowing the title to get what they're playing at instead of actually.
I mean, does that matter?
In a way, yes, because it's like if I didn't know if the show wasn't called Taboo and I watched the first 2 episodes, would I understand what they were trying to do with these 2 characters? Probably not.
But does that still matter? Because it would have been like a reveal if it was like developed further and you were like,
sure, but I don't feel like they play it like a reveal. I feel like they play it
don't.
like, this is what we've been doing. Duh, you know the title.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Sure, but I mean, I was kind of whatever on that front. But yeah, I mean, if someone doesn't want to see like someone walking around and being way too badass in the 1800s with like meetings and people trying to kill him, it's a lot like Sherlock Holmes, the Guy Ritchie version. But instead of being clever, he's just cool. He's just badass.
But because my thing is, it's not so much that I don't want to see that. I want to see that, but I want to give a shit why he's badass. I don't want a guy that just shows up and he's badass just because it'd be cool. Because in a lot of ways, it reminded me of Mr. Robot in that sense, where they're just like, let's just make a fucking kick-ass cool dude. Can't we make a cool-ass guy? And given like it's not as bad as say like Mr. Robot, and, they do have moments of, he's not quite the best at everything, but I don't know. It just reminded me a lot of like, yeah, you can do cool shit, but do I care that you're doing cool shit?
I can see that because it's if there's a big problem with the show for me, it's like, yeah, he's a bit too much of a Superman, like a caricature because he doesn't have that much more than that. But at the same time, I would have hated to see like, as you said, we don't need to see the past. I get what you're saying. Like,
yeah, because that's not what I mean. Yeah, I don't mean.
No, I know.
Yeah, because there are different ways to do it.
For sure. There's not a lot behind it, and like one of the main plots is about how he obviously has the hots for his sister, so it's kind of hard to connect with him on a personal level, and it's more about watching what unfolds. I mean, I don't know. For me, the first episode, I was completely on board. I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, cool. And then it's kind of trailed off my interest a bit because it's like, but I feel like they're still, for me, they're developing the plot in a fairly satisfying way. They're like, he's starting a shipping company. That's what it's about.
Sure.
I see what you mean, though.
Yeah.
I just don't know how. I'm not asking you for an answer, but it's difficult to see how specifically they could have fixed it,
Well, I mean, like you said, it's not like this is a factual story, so there are like unlimited ways to do. I don't know. To me, the biggest problem is, like, I completely agree with you. The first episode, I was kind of like, oh, cool, this is interesting. But from there on, I feel like the biggest problem with the show is that it's pretty dull. For a show that's like violent and badass and, doing what it's trying to do and actually having some of the elements of the show that it has, I feel like overall it's a dull slog. And maybe it's because the episodes are so long, because they are like, a standard TV show's like 42, 43 minutes or what have you without commercials. And this show's like 55, 56. And I don't think it needs to be that. I've not seen one episode that really, to me, needed that long of a a running time for the stories they're trying to tell. Now, given I'm not done with this show, I know I'm being very harsh on it, but it's mostly because I feel like some of it I'm completely interested in, and some of it I'm just like, oh, okay, like here we go, let's go, let's fucking move on with this, and like kind of slogging through the episodes. And given that's the nature of TV, the TV is obviously episodic storytelling, but when I clearly can see it, it's not, for me anyways, working as it should. Like when I can clearly see, like, oh, this is setting up a thing so it'll be an episode. You know, like now we can't get bullets. All right. Or, you know, now there's this character, so we have to do this. And this will take up an episode. Mm-hmm. To me, those just, it's like the seams were really showing, where clearly every show does that. You introduce an obstacle, like, okay, this will burn up 2 hours until we can get to this thing towards the end. But the masterful part of it is where you don't notice it. And I'm probably being super picky. I understand that, but it's just because it was fairly dull for me.
I felt like that in the fourth episode. I think what we should do is go through some of the details of the episodes and maybe spot some specific ups and downs for us, if that's okay with everyone. So we're going to have to do a spoiler warning then, or are we going to do a major spoiler warning now? We're going to talk about the whole 4 episodes.
Yeah, I feel bad that I brought up that taboo part, but I apologize for non-spoiler people.
Well, you know, I forgot that we do spoilers.
Yeah, I forgot too.
So yeah, we'll put it in the title. Who cares? So episode 1, James Delaney shows up. Everyone thought he was dead. Now I assume that this happened all the time in the good old days. It would be like, we thought you were dead for 5 years. Like, nah, my letter didn't get to you. Like, that's probably why is everyone so surprised? You live in perpetual uncertainty, I feel like.
Yeah, no, of course you're not just hopping on your cell phone and shooting a text like, you still alive down there? I'm still alive. Cool. So yeah, it's interesting. He comes in, he buries something. He's back, takes the coins off his dead dad's eyes, and he's fucking ready to rock this town.
So he inherits, it's his dad died, and conveniently he returns just for the funeral, and he finds out, well, he already knew, but we find out that he's inheriting this tiny piece of land, nothing important at all, the lawyer says. I'll even arrange for it to be sold. But Delaney is too cool. He knows all the details of it. He knows that the East India Company wants this, and they had a deal to buy it from his... I'm getting a bit bored just describing it. That is true. But they were going to buy it because it's super important because of the war between Canada and the US, and it's right there on the border, so whoever has it gets a lot more land. So that's why it's important.
Yeah, it's the pathway to China or whatever, or to Vancouver or something, or both.
Yeah. So there's a meeting with the East India Company with the High Sparrow from Game of Thrones, and there's a lot of people from Game of Thrones that I didn't even recognize at first, like the sister who's the wife of
she's
Robb Stark, which is a completely forgotten plot line in my head. But I mean, I like the first East India Company meeting when he comes in there. I do feel like the High Sparrow has quickly become kind of a caricature of like, what's this man doing? Oh, you're all incompetent, blah. But he's a good actor, so it works. But it's kind of like one note. He kind of needs to prove that he's way smarter than,
but it's always
the people who's, because he's just yelling.
It's always empty threats of like, you better get this done or I'm gonna get rid of you. And then like they're like, oh man, we didn't get it done. He's like, all right, I'll give you another chance.
Yeah, he needs to kill someone pretty soon. So yeah, he finds out his father died of arsenic poisoning, and I just wrote that I was eating it up. There was also this scene with the at the brothel that they opened in his dad's docks or something.
Yep.
So I like that part. And then there's episode 2. That's kind of episode 1.
I mean, I liked episode 1 because I thought it. Like I said, it looks great. There's a lot of good actors in it. Like what I was saying before, I don't think Tom Hardy's a bad actor. I just think he's kind of overrated. And I think a lot of it just comes down to like he has like a cool looking face as far as like it shows a lot of wear and like I don't know, like Battleborn or whatever, what have you. So if he fits for this part, I think that all works, and the promise was there. So I was like, all right, cool. It was just as I started going through these other episodes, I just felt like I was just kind of like dozing off, like not really dozing off, but just kind of like my mind was trailing off with a lot of what was happening on screen.
I think that's totally reasonable because I didn't feel like that when I was watching like episode 2, but reading the summary right now of episode 2, I'm like, Delaney sets about reclaiming his inheritance. He buys a ship at auction, then begins to assemble his crew. The reading of Horace's will concludes with the appearance of Lorna Bowe, a London actress.
Yeah. The lady shows up, and it's kind of, is she telling the truth? Isn't she? She is an actress. And I mean, they hint at it in the first episode, and they hint at it more in this, that he has either, or a little of both. He has like African powers / Native American powers because his mom was a native, but and they hint that he was basically like he was texting his dad in a way because they were talking through the fire. But It's just weird because they do that, and you're like, wow, this guy's fucking, he's got it all. But then other times he's like, I don't know what's going on. So it's like, but it's like, dude, weren't you fucking Magic Man a second ago, and now you don't know what's going on? But I don't know.
Sure. Just look in the fire. Well, just put your face in the fire.
Yeah, put your face in the fire.
Well, I felt like I was glad that they were going full on like spooky powers. It's like because Pirates of the Caribbean would have kind of sucked without those zombies in the first one. But now I'm coming around towards the end here, and I'm like, I think it's all kind of bullshit. Yeah. I think he could have found out that stuff from episode 1 in some other way, and even all the other stuff. Jumping forward a bit, when he's talking to his sister, like, "You can feel me, can't you?" At night, they're just weird. They're just weird people. I don't think there's magic in this world.
Well, yeah, I mean, but that's the biggest thing that tries to prove that there is magic, is him doing his. He does a ritual where he ghost fucks his sister, but then she says that it's actually he's ghost fucking her with like animal ghosts, because when he talks to her and she's like, I spoke to a native priest or whatever, and he wouldn't even talk to me because it's animals that are fucking me as ghosts. And then and that's when I'm just like, what am I watching? What is this?
Sounds great, Jim.
It's like either you wanna get into the African ghost fuck, or you want to talk about trade deals and embargoes.
Well, it does have a lot of weird tonal shifts because, again, jumping around, but episode 3, I believe, it kind of goes from the sister's husband really like getting really like all up in his face with like, thank you for cucking me out, or vice versa, or whatever. I'm really turned on, and I'm gonna fuck your sister so hard. And then it kind of shifts to this weird sitcom lying down the middle of the house stuff he has with his sexy mother-in-law, because they have to share the house.
And weirdly enough,
inexplicable reasons.
I do like I like their back and forth with those characters. Him and his stepmom or what have you. The husband of his sister, I don't really understand that character. I mean, I guess I get why he's mad, or the way he is in a way. But yeah, like sometimes he's being like this fucking alpha dude, and other times he's just being this like scared bitch, and then he's always calling him the N-word. This is a different show. I gotta say it.
I think he has some clause in his contract, because he has to say that like once an episode to really make sure we know who we're supposed to dislike in this show.
Yeah.
He's the only one who says it, and he does it constantly.
Yeah. And why is he calling him that? Is it just because he went to Africa?
I think it's his mother. His mother is an Indian or something.
Oh, yeah. All right. Gotcha. So yeah, he's not pure blood. And I'm kind of surprised. I mean, I haven't looked into it, but I totally would expect that, people are mad about like culture appropriation and stuff like that, or they talk about the white hero trope, and like He's doing it to a T because he's doing it with like native magic and African like a combination of the two.
Yeah.
So like I don't know. I'm surprised people aren't more annoyed about that. And yeah, because like there's that scene he's just laying down like reliving like the slave, like the pain of a slave, and he's like, I can't take this ship because of the pain of a slave. Like I felt it. I know what it's like.
Yeah, and I had to be on that boat and watch them all drown, and then I survived.
Yeah.
That was terrible for me, Delaney. They do that, but also it's BBC, cross-developed and produced, so I think they kind of feel like they own the world still a little bit. They're fine with appropriating left and right. Come on, we gave you your countries back. Will you please stop whining? They're gonna put some native magic in there if they want to. Which, by the way, episode 1, he's not being very subtle with the magic stuff because he's really like
just in front
at the grave, and he's like putting ash on his face and like hissing like a snake. So it's not weird that people don't jive with him right away.
It's FX here in America, and I have to imagine they're not letting the language go through. I didn't watch it on FX, so I can't say for sure, but they're saying like fuck and cunt all the time. So
yeah, it's great.
I imagine that's not, but maybe they are. Maybe they're just being ballsy with it.
I wouldn't know. I don't know what FX does otherwise, or if they censor stuff. But in general, I only see censorship in the US. We kind of don't give a fuck that much over here.
But yeah, like as far as I talk about like feeling the episode stuff, it's just, you know, the wife shows up, so you're like, oh, here's an episode.
Yeah, and then I see that.
You know, she attacks the Duke because they trick her into being like a whore when she's not a whore, and it's a setup, and like, you know, that's an episode. He can't get bullets or gunpowder now, so it's like, how is he gonna get the gunpowder? I do like the actor that plays Atticus. I think he was on Boardwalk Empire as Al Capone. Although this is the one show that I had to turn subtitles on because I don't know what the fuck they're talking about most of the time. Usually Go ahead.
People have complained about that, like, to the BBC, and went like, we're English and we have no idea what the fuck they're saying. And I watched it with subtitles too because they're really mumbling around a lot. So
yeah, because
is it more the audio mix or is it like the weird accents?
I think it's a little bit of both, because usually I'm pretty good with that. Even like when they have thick accents, I know a lot of people here in the States like, oh, I can't understand them, but you know, usually I can just listen and, you know, it doesn't take much to understand. But yeah, this show, a lot of it is mumbling and they're using maybe little weird slang kind of. And then, yeah, the mix is a little strange.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both probably because the audio, the mix is kind of, it's like too badass. Like the mix is like assuming you know or something. I don't know. I see what you mean about the episodes being like, here's this episode and that episode, especially with the chemist and having to walk around and he's eating the poop to see if it has the right acidity or something to make gunpowder. And that's kind of like, well, I mean, it works, but you see it, you know, it's a bit, like you said, you see the strings.
Yes. And, like part of what I was talking about before, like, so we find out that he wants all the tea in China or whatever, which is, wow, what an amazing play on that saying of like, not for all the tea in China. They're like, what if he is going for all? But the thing is, and I get he's trying to do something. And again, this is probably just part of the story and what they're laying out, but it's like, I don't care if he gets all the tea in China. Just because I need a little bit more. I just need to know a little bit, and I'm sure they're building to it and it's gonna make sense, but it's just weird that halfway through it I don't have a full grasp on why I should be rooting for James Delaney besides that he's a kick-ass guy.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, you know, I'm sure we'll get a little bit more of his past, but I don't think they're gonna turn you around on that.
Probably,
it's kind of halfway through, and if you're not on board, they're going to set the ship on fire. So if you're not on board, they're going to put you in one of those cages and take you down with a ship. So it's probably going to be, you're probably not going to love it.
My favorite part of this show, it was in episode 4 actually, because it's this gritty fucking badass show. And like, to their credit, like, yes, he's kind of a Superman, but you know, he did get taken out a bit and they've shown him lose. But like otherwise, he's got fucking savage powers. He's got like animal powers or whatever. He's got flashes. But then he's at a party and he's like freaks out. He's scared of the crowd I have no idea why. And they do it twice. Like he's trying to walk through the crowd and he's like, like he's so scared of the people that are there. And
that's social anxiety. He's a millennial.
Yeah, apparently, because part of it is they're almost like, at first I was like, oh, maybe he's scared because they're like decadent people. But this guy like fucks his sister, so it doesn't.
Yeah. Not quite.
Because they're kind of showing that they're all like drinking and whatever. But then it's also like, well, why do they care that he fucks his sister? Because I was caught in a loop with what they were trying to do here. But I just loved his scared faces and the way they edited that. Because it was cracking me up. So I was having a good time with that scene.
Yeah, I guess they don't really get into why he. I mean, yeah.
Is it like because they do try to portray him almost as a minority? I mean, he gets called the N-word. His mom was a native, and he's been to Africa, and he has these powers. So is it the whole thing of like, I get nervous around white people? It's like Tom Hardy's like, oh no, white people, man. Ah, oh my God.
No, I hope not. I think it's, I don't know. I guess he's been in the wild for so long or something, or he's just, he's like paying the price.
You know, this is the real jungle, man. You know,
yeah.
Like I'm at peace with the tigers and the wild, but not here. This is the true wild. Ugh.
It's kind of hard for it to not. I mean, it's hard to believe that he couldn't stomach that when he just finished spell fucking his sister or making his sister fuck Manjora's Mask or something. There's a little flash of a weird Skull Kid person there, so he should be able to deal with it. But maybe this is the price he has to pay for being so badass and being able to make everyone else uncomfortable. Maybe other people also make him uncomfortable. Maybe that's why he's lashing out, Jim.
Maybe, yeah, that could be it. That could be why the man that bit someone's neck like a vampire and like ate his flesh was uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. It was good to see what's his face from House of Cards. I always like seeing him in things.
He's kind of House of Cards-ish.
Yeah, he's just House of Cards.
Enforcing the U.S. administration. I assume if we ever do get to see Thomas Jefferson, it's going to be
Kevin
extremely
Spacey.
House of Cards.
Yeah, just Kevin Spacey comes in and like, huh? See, winking. We already got the High Sparrow as the High Sparrow, so
checks out. I think we kind of went through a lot of the details. I mean, when you look at episode 3, you know, he's been wounded just because he almost died, but he gets fixed up. What's the deal with Winter? What's going on there? That's weird.
Yeah, that was weird, and that was another bizarre scene. Like the way they shot it and the way it played out when he's on the boat with Winter when we first meet Winter. Yeah, and then she's just like, "What is it like there?" And he's like, "I don't know." And he's like, "What is this?" And I was like, "What are they trying to do here?" And then she disappears. Yeah, I don't know. She was a mulatto girl.
I think she's as weird as him, and that's why they get along so well.
Yeah.
They're both. I'm sure if she was at that party, she'd be freaking out too. Lorna Bowe tries to make a claim for the assets, but he
blackmails a spy because he finds him like dressed as a lady in a gay brothel,
right.
and we find out that like again because Tom Hardy's such a hunk kick-ass guy. We found out that guy's like in love with James Delaney, and they used to have to share a bed, and it was torture. But
makes sense to me.
But he's really sweet and sensitive to him as well, because he's like, "I'll keep you safe, I'll protect you, and you know, you give me information." Because that's the other thing, like you said, how there's a good argument for there being no magic, because he knows things in the beginning, and we think like, "Oh, this guy's got magic," but then he knows things later, and we know it's just because he pays people for information.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like he is such a bad person that, I mean, I don't have a reason. Like you were saying, there's a lack of a reason to care about what he's doing. But I really, speaking of House of Cards, it's a bit House of Cards-ish. I just like watching it.
That's true. I mean, I know I was probably being a little more harsh than I should. It's just the biggest thing to me was just that even though there's a lot, well, I wouldn't say a lot, but even though there's stuff I liked, a lot of it was kind of dull. So it felt like, and probably because I had to watch 2, 3, and 4 all in one go. That's my own fault.
Gee, that's gonna mess you up.
Yeah.
Because I spaced it out, and I was like taking breaks, so I can totally see that.
Yeah, so that's probably my own fault. It doesn't seem like a show that lends itself that well to like the binge watch. But I could totally see if I'm watching it week to week, which I'm going to do from here on, it's probably a bit more entertaining and a bit more like a better watch.
Yeah, we're gonna have to see because we're doing the first half now, so we'll do the second half later and see if your opinion changes. I do feel like if you're watching them in a row, there's not enough happening in each episode to just really justify the length, especially strung together. So I totally see that because it's kind of like, oh, this happens and we're talking in a cupboard and
to bring up Mr. Robot again, or the show we don't name. It's probably similar to when you watched, because like you watched season 1, you watched it like all in a row.
Yeah,
and I'm sure that was kind of a rough patch. But when I watched it, I kind of watched it like it was a little bit more spaced out, and I kind of liked it a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that would have helped for that show as well.
Because it's also similar to when I used to watch Mad Men. I watched Mad Men week to week, and I found that I liked it a lot more than if I tried to sit down like, all right, let's binge a season of Mad Men. Even though it's a better show, it still is one of those, I don't know. It's better to watch an episode and kind of think about it a little bit and what they're trying to do before you get into the next one and just be like, there's one, on to the next.
Possibly, but I did watch those all in a row, kinda, more or less. Not the final seasons, but for a couple of seasons anyway. And for me, it was more. I would have been. I feel like I would have been bored, like trying to wait and like, oh, okay, there's nothing happened. Like trying to, because that show moves pretty slow as well.
True.
But yeah, that's just a better show, and that's why either works.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about the wife or the mother-in-law. Why does Delaney protect her at all?
Because she's a weakness, remember?
But she's a weakness because she's alive and has a claim on the thing.
Yeah, that's true. Her being alive is weird. But
it makes sense.
I know he was protecting her, obviously, because they were trying to use her to get a claim on his land. But yeah, you're right. It's like, for him being such a savage guy, you would think he would just dispose of her.
Mm-hmm. Or at least not super interfere when they're trying to dispose of her. Now, it makes sense in episode 4, of course, because they have all this stuff for taking over the island. But before that, not so much in my mind. Because it's almost like I need a scene where he's like, you're my last connection to my family or something, because he doesn't seem to have a clear motivation.
You know what? That is what because he had a flash, and he started the point that he started changing his mind on her was when she mentioned she had a trunk of letters.
Yeah.
So that is kind of, I think, what the deal is between just keeping her alive, keeping her from being, exploited by the Americans or the crown to get the land. But then, wanting that trunk, because that was he was saying that, I think, in episode 4. He's like, "You're gonna give me the letters." So I think that's some important thing, because when she mentioned it, he had one of his like weirdo flashes of his. I don't know if it's supposed to be his mom, if it's a ghost,
lady in the river,
a ghost of his mom. But he did have a flash when she mentioned the letters. So I guess that's the only thing I can really latch onto on why he's keeping her alive and keeping her safe.
Right, that makes sense. And I hope by the time he gets them, I'm sure they have made more of a connection and so on. Who is he going to have sex with first, the sister or the mother?
You talking about real sex or ghost sex?
I'm talking about real sex, because I was going to say, for a show so sexy, it's kind of weird. For a show so much like Game of Thrones, why he has not had sex yet with anyone. That's kind of weird.
Well, I mean, again, he had ghost sex, so you got to give him that.
Ghost sex, that's like anal for a Christian. It doesn't count. You're still a real
he's still
virgin.
Made sure he's had opportunities where he's like naked, like laying around and, reliving slave memories. I imagine he would have sex with his stepmom before his sister.
This is a great show. I don't see what your problem is. The thing is, it's all about like conceptually, it's all about like the trading company and stuff like him making a will where he makes it all go to the Americans. I like that.
I like that.
I like those type of maneuvering things, and the balance is pretty rough, especially if you watch it all in a row. To like rough balance to get right, but overall, that's the part that intrigues me as far as seeing if he gets it or not. Although it is true that if the East India Company gets it and he dies in a ditch, I'm not going to have my heart broken, I'm just kind of watching it play out. So that's kind of a negative. But
I do. Like I said, I do. Like I'm interested in to see where it ends, but I'm getting a very all part of the plan vibe of the show, where. And I hate those stories where any little thing that you think is a challenge, where then at the end they're like, nope, it was all part of the plan, huh? But like I'm getting that vibe a lot, and I guess that makes me dread like where they're headed. But I mean,
I think that's because they don't tell you the plan, because he doesn't ever say what he's gonna do, and that's why you get that Ocean's 11 feeling of like, okay, I guess it's gonna all be part of the plan at the end.
Yeah.
But also, I feel like there's more details where it's clearly not part of the plan, like him getting challenged by his brother-in-law, which isn't super interesting because it's kind of like they could have just fought to the death in the mud and it wouldn't have made that much of an impression on anything. But so the duel is kind of like, oh, we're going to do a duel episode, as you were talking about earlier.
Unless this is all part of the plan, dude. You don't know. That could be why he was ghost sexing her, because he knew it would rile this guy up. This could be all part of the plan.
Speaking of plans, has anyone considered sending two people to murder James Delaney? Because there's always this moment right after he kills the first assassin where he just goes bananas and starts putting hooks in him or eating his face or whatever, and that's the point where you have a guy with a fucking rifle in the woods just aiming and then pang, and then that's that. They do have firearms in this age. I know they do.
Yeah.
So
Maybe the next time. Maybe next time and they'll send two people. Probably not, though.
They could just send 20, and that would be that. That would be end of the show. But although it's hard to find good killers these days.
Yeah. I mean, I liked the stuff with, like, I guess it was in episode 4, him and Carlsbad discussing, what's what, and she's the path to Thomas Jefferson, and they're in the magic box discussing political intrigue. Because, I mean, I get what they're trying to make this, trade thing interesting in the way that, Game of Thrones or House of Cards makes politics interesting. It's just they haven't done a good enough job for me yet anyways. And part of that is because it's like you got to do either something with the land and make it seem more valuable rather than just people keep saying how valuable it is, at least kind of show us something, or give us a little bit more on Delaney and what his revenge plan is or why it is.
Yeah. And I think we may get some of that. We'll see. I mean, it got me turned to the positive immediately, and I've just kind of been along for the ride and haven't... I mean, in the last episode, I did get some of those vibes of like, oh, this is still 20 minutes left of this episode, but we'll just have to see how well it plays out. I feel like it's kind of hard to do a climax in a story like this. What are they going to do? A bigger fight? Like a bigger meeting? Like High Sparrow's going to get so mad this time? But I do like the different power factions at play, because we have at least like 4 distinct factions with the Prince Regent, the East India, the Americas, and of course Delaney, and in a sense the mother-in-law and the sister's husband and all that they're doing their own thing. And I think they bounce off each other in a pretty interesting way. It's gonna be hard to make it a super great finish, I think, but I hope they do. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to see where they go.
So please send your feedback on Taboo. If you've watched by the time you're listening to this, maybe you've watched even more episodes. So please do send feedback on whichever episodes you've seen or in the comments below. Just leave us something on Taboo and we'll bring it up when we discuss the rest of the season. Or send it to showswhatyouknowshow@gmail.com.
Right. Yes. And or if you have any ghost sex animals, send them our way.
Yeah, or ghost sex anecdotes, even.
As well.
Do you want to tell us, like, what do you mean it's all fake? This is all real, like, and this is how the ghost sex works. I'm all ears. I would love to hear about that. So please visit jimandthem.com for more from Jim. Awesomepedia.org is my website, and of course, showswhatyouknow.com for all your TV show needs. And you can also recommend shows you'd like us to check out. So that's about it. See you next time.
See ya.
We are Shows What You Know. We'll always watch TV. And if you think we can't, well, watch more and you'll see. That's why the people of the web believe in Jim from Las Vegas and Jacob from Sweden.